Hello everybody and welcome back to the Data Playbook. So as mentioned in a previous video, I'm going to go through the games pretty quickly here for the Sunday games. If you need more information or want to look at the details, you're welcome to pause and zoom in to any of the information. But otherwise, I'm just going to try to get through it pretty quickly. So let's get into it. And on to our next game, you have Philadelphia at Minnesota, where Philadelphia is favored on the money line with a spread of 1.5 and 43.5, so it's expected to be a close game. Just some notable parts, you have almost 80.5 average fantasy points from the team of Minnesota, and just a little less from Philadelphia. That does put Philadelphia and Minnesota in the bottom half of the league in terms of how much they score in fantasy points. I think otherwise, Philadelphia is kind of right in the middle. They're not very good at passing. They're not very good at rushing right now, and they allow a lot of rushing. Minnesota is very good at stopping the pass, but they're not so great at stopping the rush, and they're not great at rushing themselves. Otherwise, they stay about middle ground. They do allow a lot of scoring, though. So this could potentially be a little higher scoring game if Philadelphia can figure out some of their offense. And if you need any more information, here's your averages. So go ahead and pause the video and look at this in more detail if need be. And for your quarterbacks, you have Jalen Hurts for Philadelphia and J.J. McCarthy for Minnesota. Even though Hurts has not had a great season, he does average 20.7 fantasy points in PPR, which is about what you want to see from a quarterback. I'd say anything above 20 is something that you really want out of your quarterback. J.J. McCarthy only getting 12.5 is not very good for your quarterback. Jalen Hurts has had a couple turnovers with one passing interception and one fumble lost to a sack. J.J. McCarthy with a few more with three passing interceptions this season and one fumble that's due to a sack. Just bringing up the averages if you want to look through them. J.J. McCarthy's only had a couple weeks, and even so in those weeks it's not been very good, as Jalen Hurts has also struggled but makes up for it with some of the passing touchdowns and rushing. Looking into our running backs, you have Saquon Barkley and Jordan Mason. You get an average of almost 15 fantasy points PPR for Saquon, which isn't too bad from a running back, and 12.1 for Jordan Mason. Flipping over to the averages, this is what you get. And this is our breakdown for receiving and rushing if you need any of that information. And then looking at the number one wide receivers, you have A.J. Brown for Philadelphia and Justin Jefferson for Minnesota. You get an average of almost 16 PPR for Justin Jefferson, which is pretty good. Can't complain about that. A little less than 10 in PPR for A.J. Brown, which is left to be desired, I think, by owners of A.J. Brown. These are your totals real fast. And switching over to the averages, these are your averages. And you have your breakdowns over here. Just a note, A.J. Brown does get still 36% of the receiving yards on his team, and Justin Jefferson gets 42%. So he's almost at half. He gets a huge portion of his team's receiving yards. And then looking at our second receivers here with Devontae Smith and Jordan Addison. Addison gets 15.25 average fantasy points from PPR, so that's pretty good. It almost matches even their number one wide receiver with Justin Jefferson. I think that does come from the fact that he has one really good week and one somewhat average week, so he has not been in that much to actually get a good average. And speaking of which, I will bring up the averages here. We do look at their share, so you get 24, almost 25% for Devontae Smith, where Jordan Addison actually gets a smaller share. This doesn't show up, but it's probably about 20%, maybe a little less. And then here's your tight ends. You have Dallas Goedert and TJ Hawkinson. Hawkinson averaging just 8 fantasy points per game. Dallas Goedert getting almost 15.6 PPR, so that's pretty good for a tight end. Interesting to know where he would rank on that. But if we look at the averages then, this is what you get for their average receiving yards per game. And here's your breakdown, with Goddard getting just over 20%, 21% almost of the team's receiving yards, and Hawkinson getting almost about 8, almost 9%, so much less. So this game might come down to who wants it more. There's a lot of different places that they can poke each other. You know, this allowed passing rank is not going to help Philadelphia, so especially with a passing rank of 28, so I would not bet on any passing. I would not bet on a great passing game from Philadelphia in this game. On the opposite end, you don't have great offensive stats from Minnesota, and a team that actually does have a pretty good defense overall, other than this rushing rank down here. So maybe if Minnesota can get their rushing game going, they might fill that hole and be able to win there. So with that, thank you so much for watching. I hope that you enjoyed and got something out of it. If you did, leave a like and subscribe. If there's more you want to see, leave a comment on what I can do better. But otherwise, thank you so much for watching.